Tenders. It's not a fan. Hey, everybody out there online. Thank you guys for tuning into The Divide. We are here in your ear having the conversations that you need to hear. This is The Divide with Marcus C. Williams. Hit that like button. Hit the share button. It don't cost you nothing. Drop an American flag in the comments. We are tuned in, and this is 106.3 FM, Rochester Free Radio, WRFZLP. Thank you guys for tuning in. We're here. We're about to talk about a whole bunch of different issues that are going on, both on the local, state, and on the federal level, and even internationally. But real quick, as you tune in, make sure you hit that share button. Make sure you hit the subscribe or follow button, because every interaction helps the algorithm a lot. So drop some comments if you want to be a part of the conversation on the show. Let's get into it. So we were just talking about how we have all of these elected officials that allegedly are supposed to serve the people. But then when you start to look at some of the stuff that they're pushing and the legislation that they're putting out there, you have to start to ask, who sponsored this legislation? Who put this forth to actually be part of what is pushed by the level of government that you're actually looking into? So here on City Council, where I live in Rochester, New York, these people are doing a whole bunch of crazy stuff that nobody really wants. And I'll start with a very small one, and I'll work up to the next phase of this nonsense, because they're really all together. It's called the Rochester Zero Vision, or Rochester Rock Vision Zero. It's a whole bunch of garbage, government overreach, limitation of freedom of mobility, and expansion of government surveillance. It's a really serious problem. Not only does it limit your freedoms and limit your liberties, but it promises you a false sense of temporary security, which it will not deliver, and which you can never actually navigate with the government. Because what? All of our presidents have warned us about this, essentially, and especially the first couple. You got George Washington warned us about government expansion. Thomas Jefferson, and Thomas Jefferson, and he was a little bit more of a federalist than I would like, but he warned us about that. We got other people like, hey, I see you out there. Thank you for commenting. I'll pop your comment up on the screen. We got other people like John Adams warning us about it. We got Benjamin Franklin. Even though Benjamin Franklin wasn't a president, he was one of the most influential people in the history of our nation still yet. And he warned us about it. No government expansion of surveillance and stuff like that, because when you trade essential liberties for the promise of temporary security, then you deserve neither the security nor your liberties. And that's where we're at, not just in Rochester where I live, but in our whole nation right now. We've got Trump in office right now, and we see what's going on with Palantir and the expansion of government, and you've got the growth of different government agencies expanding the level of federal policing, which I am no fan of. Why are we doing that? And as a conservative and as a Republican, more Republicans and conservatives need to stand up. They just passed FISA again, which has a couple different sections in that are very questionable, which we're not going to really get into today. But that happened, and Republicans are voting for it, right? You're voting for spying on American people, and then they'll say, oh, well, it's only spying on foreigners, and it's stopped terrorism and this and that. Show me. Show me it stopped terrorism. Where, who, when? When did it stop? You know what I'm saying? And then they were like, oh, well, that's private. It's classified. Why? Why? Because you're out here telling me that you're going to spy on the American people. You're going to tell me that this stuff is okay. And you're going to tell me that I should let you do whatever you want, even though you're the government. And I know that you don't have our own best interests at heart. That's a serious issue. And I don't know what's going on with Republicans in the Senate and in Congress that are just going for this stuff, because it's not right. And as a Republican, you're supposed to stand on business. Oh, well, the safety and don't sell me any of those lies. Don't sell me any of those lies. You want to talk to me about safety? Talk to me about the Second Amendment and how these people are encroaching on our Second Amendment rights. The federal government, the Department of Justice? not the Department of Justice, the ATF. I think it was in coupling with the Department of Justice. They just released like 34 new rules. Some things they're getting rid of, and some of them they're adding more. Like they're adding a new, I believe it is 3-year federal database for firearms purchases or something like that. You know, once that goes through, that there's never going to be anything to stop it. That they're just going to collect all the data on all of the people that are registering firearms, which you shouldn't have to register your firearms to begin with. But that's a whole nother important conversation that we can't even have, because you've got these people out here talking about, oh, nobody should have a gun. Da, 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 da. What do you mean? What do you mean? There's a serious issue right now with people giving up their liberties and their freedoms and their rights for a false sense of security. Bad guys always arm themselves. They got all these illegal guns that are not, that shouldn't be illegal, right? Because you have the right to bear arms, and that's any type of arms, especially an implement of war, a tool of war, or that could be attributed to war. That's exactly what the Second Amendment is for. We are the militia, right? And people forget that because of the cultivation of the replacement of language that we have right now. And they'll say, oh, well, a militia is this, a militia. No, we are the militia. Every individual is the militia. And a well-regulated militia means that we are supposed to be armed, not that it's monitored by the government. That is something that's very serious that we need to talk about. We have to have these conversations, because if nobody's going to have these conversations, who's going to encourage people to stand up, right? Many people out there think that they're the only one that sees what's going on, think that they are not able to fight back or not able to push back or not able to do anything, but we are. We have strength. We can have actual change happen if we stand up in numbers. And a lot of it has to go with voting. Like, I know people say that all the time. Oh, well, it's voting that makes a difference. Da, 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 da. It is. It is voting that makes a difference. But we've also got to have good candidates. We don't always get the best candidates that are running for office. And then people say, oh, well, I'll just vote for the lesser of two evils. No, nobody's trying to hear that. That's how we got here where we are now in our country, continuously voting for the lesser of two evils instead of voting for good candidates, instead of getting good candidates out there to actually run. You know, where I am right now, there's some contention with some of the people that are running in my state, because as conservatives and Republicans, we are pro-life, but a lot of them are not. They're pro-baby murder. So you have to ask yourself, well, if these are the candidates that are running on a Republican line and they're pro-baby murder and you don't want that, how come you're not running? How come you're not running? How come you haven't found candidates to run that do believe in that? How come you haven't galvanized the people that believe what you believe to actually start to get this issue addressed? It's not happening. So what do you expect to happen? And that's the problem. That's where the conversation falls off, where people are just like, oh, go out and vote, go out and vote. Oh, vote for your party or whatever. What if your party person is trash, right? Like, what if your party person is trash? Okay. I'm going to pick on Mike Lawler for a second. Okay. Mike Lawler is pushing for the Dignity Act, which is going to give mass amnesty to 10 million illegal aliens. And it's going to stop deportations until after the next presidential election. Vote for him for why, right? Vote for him for why? Because he's on the Republican line? Like, what are we doing? Like, he wants mass amnesty, and all Republicans want is more deportations. We were promised mass deportations, and we only got a handful of deportations. It's unacceptable, the low number of deportations that we have gotten. And people say, oh, well, the number of deportations are significantly higher than they were during the Obama, or not the Obama had more deportations, but the Biden administration, or whatever the case is. So what? I wanted mass deportations. I want millions and millions of them gone. You understand what I'm saying? I wanted tens of millions of them relieved and gone, sent back. What do we got? A couple million, some self-deportations, all of this, all of that? No, they need to be going through state by state, town by town, taking all of these people out, putting them on a plane, give them a parachute, push them out the plane and say, God be with you. You understand what I'm saying? Like, what are we doing here? So, like I'm saying with Lawler, he's like, we want mass amnesty. No, nobody wants that. And you're running on the Republican line. This goes down to what's going on in North Carolina, where you got the lady that's out there wearing a niqab. That's a whole face covering thing. And she's like, I'm running on the Republican line. You're what? Running on a Republican line? Looking like you're in the middle of Islamic caliphate? Like, what are we doing here? Like, what? And you're running as a Republican? Nonsense. Nonsense. That doesn't show Republican or traditional values of our nation. Like, what are we doing here? And this is why we as Republicans must stand up and stand for what we believe in. But I'd say the same thing to the Democrats. Look at what's become of your party. The Democrat Party has turned to trash garbage because they've let the socialists and the communists take over their whole party. Who pushes the agendas in their party right now, in the Democrat Party right now? The socialists, the communists, and the elite, right? So there's no room for the everyday average people. None at all. That's why when you look at the polls on CNN, it's like most Democrats want voter ID. How is that an issue? How is that a problem? How come the rest of the Democrat Party in Congress and stuff isn't pushing for that? How come state level Democrat parties aren't pushing for that? Speaking of a Democrat state and voter ID, California got enough signatures on a petition to get voter ID on their ballot this year as a referendum. So California might actually get voter ID. That'll be interesting. We'll see how that ends up working. And we'll see what goes on in the rest of the country if Senator Thune could ever pull his head out of his behind and actually pass the SAVE Act. You understand what I'm saying? I don't care if it's a skinny SAVE Act. If all it says is that we are checking IDs for people to vote in the elections. I don't care if that's all that it says. Okay? But it needs to be done. It needs to be done. All the extra stuff in there, that's nice. Okay? No men in women's sports and women's bathrooms and stuff like that. I support that. But I need a skinny bill because I need this thing passed. Maybe we should separate it and get those other things passed too. I don't know why Thune won't pass it. You know, I have an idea. It's really because he's a turd. You know what I'm saying? And I'm being nice. I got some more thoughts about it that are way more colorful. Because what's he doing? Why won't you pass the SAVE Act, Thune? Now the president is getting out on the TV talking about, oh, well, we need to kill the filibuster. And I feel him. You know, we need to kill the filibuster, right? Yes and no, but we definitely need to kill this fake filibuster where they don't even have to come down and speak. Look, if you're going to filibuster, I need you to get out there like Hakeem Jeffries, and I need you to poo in your pants while you're on stage standing up there for 12 hours or whatever it was that he was up there at. Drop how long Hakeem Jeffries was standing at there talking on the in the comments. So, but this is what I'm saying. Like, if we're not going to have our actual Republicans that are in office stand up on what we as the people want, what are we doing? You know, and then people are like, oh, well, get out and vote. And that's me. I'm one of those people. Don't get it twisted. I'm 100% like get out and vote all the time. Vote all the time. But I'm not one that says vote only your party all the time, right? Because sometimes these people that are on the conservative line aren't really conservative. Sometimes these people on the Republican line aren't really Republicans. I just write my own name. You know? One of these years, I'm going to get elected for judge because I'm going to be the only person that voted for that position, you know? And I joke, but I'm serious because a lot of people go to vote and they don't know anything about any of these candidates who are running for office. They don't even know who they are. They don't know what they look like. And it's a problem. It's a very serious problem. We have a gentleman who's running for governor right now. His name is in New York State. His name is Bruce Blakeman. He's the head of the Nassau County. He's a Nassau County executive out there. And it's like nobody knows who he is, you know, and that's not a good thing. Because first, he's got to raise money. And then secondly, if nobody knows who he is, what's going to prompt somebody to vote for him except that he's on the Republican line? And I feel like what a lot of people don't understand is a lot of people that are Republican are not just voting clear across the line. That's just not what's happening anymore. People aren't doing it. They're like, okay, do you believe what I believe? Are we on the same frame point? Are you actually going to hold down and hold the ground and stand on business? And if nobody knows who he is, they don't know what he looks like, they don't know what he stands for, that's a bad issue. I hope that his people can get him out to more places so people can make a real decision. Because here we have the high priestess Kathy Hochul as our governor, and I am not a fan, and that is to really put it mildly. That is to really put it mildly. So real quick, hit that like button, hit the share button. It doesn't cost you nothing. And definitely drop a comment, because every comment helps kick the circulation out to more people. You are tuned into The Divide on WRFZ 106.3 Rochester Free Radio. This is The Divide with Marcus C. Williams. Drop them comments, hit them likes. So I see a lot more people watching than I see them likes. Hit them likes. Now, as we have this conversation, we have to also think about what's going on with the Democrat Party in New York State, right? We've got Governor Kathy as is their highest person on their highest level. And sometimes the governor will say stuff, and she's like, recently for the CLCPA, the climate action nonsense that they got going on, ridiculous prioritization of the money, of the budget. It's terrible. It's just bad. I know a lot of people like the solar panels and all of that, and I'm not going to harsh or mellow on solar panels today, but I am going to say that the way that that plan is structured, they call it all these green things, it's trash. It's garbage, and we need to be asking where the money is going and where is the money that's allegedly been spent. So if you care about the environment, if you're one of those super ultra greenies that love solar panels and stuff like that, you need to start asking the state, where is the money gone? What's happened? How come all of these solar projects that they promise us are not done yet? How come all of the cost runs seem to be more administrative than they are for actual stuff? Now, I'm not the biggest person on farm line solar panels. I don't like that. There should be no solar panels on farmland at all. None at all. Okay. That's a big important thing to me. I believe very firmly the only place where solar makes sense is on the top of your roof. That's it. And in a lot of cases, wind would make more sense on the top of somebody's roof. But that's a whole nother conversation on how solar and wind don't scale very good, especially in the Northeast where we live, because it's cloudy and it just doesn't generate the amount of money and electricity back that we need. So that's an important conversation to have. But like I said, Kathy Hochul was standing up against the CLCP. Is it CLCPA? I believe is how you adjust those letters. I always mix them together. But she stood up. She said, hey, maybe we should slow down and not force everything to be completely electric by 2030. Maybe we should push it out to 2050. Or 2035, whatever it was. It's like, maybe we should push it to 2050. My state representative, who you guys have heard me talk about before, Jeremy Cooney, who we don't agree on a lot of things. He was like, well, maybe we should. And he's like, really will go for any Democrat cause that's out there pretty much. He'll figure out some way to dance around it. So that's what he supports. And there's some stuff there, but we won't talk about it. But so that's who he is as a person. But even he's like, well, maybe we should wait just a little bit. And you know what the Democrats in the House, and which is the legislature here in New York State for the Assembly, and the ones in the Senate told him and told Governor Kathy, they told both of them to go kick rocks. Now, these are Democrats. These aren't Republicans. So the Democrats are telling their highest person, kick rocks. And they're telling one of their senators, kick rocks. And this senator supports everything, lives across the street from Planned Parenthood. Make it make sense. You know what I'm saying? Like hardcore. He's hardcore. So you mean to tell me that you're going to tell him that, no, that's not something that we're going to do and just take a poo on him completely? That should show you about who's really navigating the Democrat Party. And it's not just happening here in New York State. It's happening all across the country, and people need to wake up. Hit that like button, drop some American flags in the comment. Every comment helps a lot. And if you're listening to on the radio, please tell your friends, family, and even your enemies Mondays, 2:30 to 4 p.m. Tune into The Divide with Marcus C. Williams here on WRFZ 106.3 LP, Rochester Free Radio. Drink water, stay hydrated. Hold tight, y'all. Anyway, make sure you guys drink water because Americans are chronically dehydrated. And I really believe that a lot of that has to do with what's going on with the extreme rise in Alzheimer's. You know, they've actually done some studies and now they're saying Alzheimer's is really a form of diabetes. So that's really interesting, something to look in for you guys. But it's also, I'm telling you, it's about dehydration and chronic dehydration. That's where the brain pitting comes from. That's where the lack of connectivity in your brain tissues are. That's where that comes from. This is what we've got going on right now, and we should definitely talk about it and stay hydrated. So as we get into more conversations, I want to bring it back locally, and then we're going to pop over to the Middle East, okay? So let's hit locally. Locally where I am, they've got this Rock Vision Zero project. I talked about it a little bit in the beginning of the show. But getting into that, they have it where one of the things is they want to put all types of surveillance and speed humps and all types of crazy stuff in the alleys that we have in our city, because we got a lot of alleys in our city. Nobody asked for that. They're like, oh, it's going to make them safer and cleaner. The alleys aren't a problem. The alleys have never been a problem. Still, even though we got all these crazy carjackings and all this other crazy nonsense, the alleys are not a problem. Who is out here complaining about the alleys? You want to know what's wrong with the alleys? They never clean the alleys. If we could get them to clean the alleys 3 times a year, heck, I'll settle for 2 times a year. We'll really be doing something. But most of the alleys don't get cleaned once every 5 years. You know, they're just not clean. And that's the only real issue. Maybe, I don't know, actually level the pavement and fix the pavement on some of them. Maybe that. But all these surveillance cameras and speed humps, nobody asked you for that. Who's behind did you pull that out of? You understand what I'm saying? Like, this is a question that we have to ask these people. Where are these concepts and these ideas actually coming from? Who is funding this? All of it is about limiting the freedom of mobility of our people here. And I really, truly am trying to encourage more people to see what's going on and to understand what's going on. I know a lot of people feel like they can't be bothered, but once this stuff goes in, it's going to be harder to get it out. Okay? I was at one of their meetings for the Rock Zero program thing that they're trying to push right now. Part of that, in addition to what we just talked about, is also what they're calling automated traffic enforcement. Clip that. You know, automated traffic enforcement is a word that they are using in this ridiculous Rock Vision Zero concept, which is really nothing more than extreme government surveillance. They are pushing more cameras, they are pushing more surveillance, and they are trying to tell us as the citizens that, oh, it's automatic traffic enforcement. Well, call it what it is. Call it government surveillance. Call it that. What is it? It's cameras. Okay. Are the cameras outside? Yes. Are the cameras operated by the government? Yes. Okay. So therefore it is government camera surveillance. So why not call it what it is? Because automated traffic enforcement sounds a lot softer. It's a play on language, so they're manipulating the people. That's what this is. That's all that they do, you know? And I went there and I was talking to one of our city council people, Mitch Gruber, who has been pushing for this. The first thing they do, we get in there and they emotionally manipulate us. Oh, well, who had somebody that they knew that was hit by a car or killed by a car or whatever, you know, to set off the tone as something that is emotionally jarring and that invokes emotion in you so that they can manipulate you and bring you around to their way of thinking. It's crazy. And then as it continued, not only was it emotional manipulation, but also it was segmented, cultivated, specific wording and phrasing that was put into the different ways that they were asking questions and the different questions that they had on the questionnaire and stuff like that. So you could basically not say no to the surveillance cameras. I wrote no on there anyway. I said, this is what we're not doing. No more government surveillance. So this is the problem, right? They didn't even give you the option to say no. So I point out that Mitch said, okay, well, these things are being done on West Main Street, and we've got these blocks up for, they've got like these huge concrete, like I don't even know what you call them, not ballasts, but it's like barriers, I should even say. Barriers between the, I guess you want to call it a bike lane and the street, right? Not only are they hideous, the buses have run up on top of them. It's a whole crazy, ridiculous thing. On top of that, because of the way that it is now you've got this barrier from there in the sidewalk, so all of the dirt comes down and gets stuck in the bike lane. So who's biking? Then there's nothing, no mechanism to clean them out or anything like that. So now it's just piling dirt, piling dirt, piling dirt. Then you get people that are either, maybe they want to be in the wheelchair and they want to be down there, because we have a lot of people in wheelchairs that are handy capable, and they be getting up and going on their little 15 horsepower, whatever you call them, wheelchairs. They got a special name for the electric wheelchairs, but it escapes me right now. But yeah, they be using them too. And then now what are you doing? You're on the bike, you're stuck behind this person, you got to do all this. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. And nobody asked for that nonsense. And then I'm like, dude, this is bad. And he's like, well, we're not getting rid of it. I said, well, how could we get rid of it? He said, well, we're not doing that. What do you mean? Who are you talking to like that, bro? You understand what I'm saying? Like, we don't got no bad blood like that. But if we were out on the street and you spoke to me like that, them's is fighting words. Them's is fighting words, bro. And for me expressing concern for my neighborhood and for my people, you know what I'm saying? Like, how you gonna come at me like that, dude? How you gonna, and you supposed to represent us, bro? And you used to live around the corner. Stop playing in my face. When they were shooting up the street and stuff like that, you didn't have nothing to say about none of the criminals, but you talking about some traffic. Man, miss me with that noise. But this is how these elected officials operate. They don't really care about us. So you got to ask, who's pushing this agenda? It's those Rochester Connect people that got these millions of dollars to push this type of nonsense and other programs that are limiting freedom of mobility. And he doesn't care because he's hotty-toddy. He's a doctorate in Rochester history, so he's so much better and so much smarter. And none of what's going on in our city really impacts him because he lives in a nice neighborhood now with his kids where they're not shooting up the neighborhood anymore. Make it make sense. Drop a comment, hit the like button, hit the share button. It don't cost you nothing. Be part of the conversation. I love y'all. Drop American flag. You are tuned into The Divide with Marcus C. Williams. We are here in your ear having the conversations you need to hear. So as I'm engaging him on this situation, I'm being very nice about the situation and stuff like that, but I'm not moving off of that square. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is wrong. And now you're trying to tell us that you want to put all of these automated cameras in. What are you doing? Then somebody asked them about the statistics that they were using, because they gave us some fuzzy statistics. Oh, we have more accidents in Rochester than they do in Buffalo or Syracuse. Well, Buffalo and Syracuse are less densely populated than Rochester. You understand what I'm saying? The streets are completely designed differently. You know what I'm saying? Like, what part of Syracuse? What part of Buffalo? Because Buffalo goes all the way to Canada. Buffalo is Buffalo, Niagara Falls, all the rest of that. What part of Buffalo? What are you considering actually? You understand what I'm saying? Like, so people had all of these questions. That wasn't my question, but that was somebody else's question. And it's a good question. And they're just batting them off, knocking them down. No, your question's not important. We're doing this. We're doing whatever we want, whatever we feel like. I asked them, I said, okay. I said, you guys are having these conversations to see if we want this. And very clearly, a large portion of our people that are here don't want this, except for the people that are here that you've peppered the room with, that are your sycophants, that are the same people from the Reconnect Rochester people who push this nonsense to begin with. Make it make sense. So that they can skew the data to say, oh, well, we came out to the community and the people that came from the community wanted it. No, we don't. We don't want that. Because it's more massive surveillance. And once the surveillance comes in, people, it's not going away. It's not going away. And we need to understand that. Stop giving the government your liberties and your freedoms, because the government doesn't care about you. And it's repugnant how many Republicans are like, oh yeah, put up the cameras or whatever the case. Put up the cameras for what? Did you forget that in our state and in our city, we don't lock up criminals? You understand? Like, we don't lock up criminals. If you're not here, you don't understand how bad it is. Okay? We have people rob a bank. Okay? A couple of people, different times, rob a bank. They get out the same day. Same day, within a couple of hours. Oh, why? Because some of them are under 18, but they rob the bank and they get out the same day. Armed robbery. You understand what I'm saying? Assaulting victims and stuff like that. And they're getting out the same day. This is what we're doing. Okay? Then they got the people that are stealing all the vehicles and stuff like that. They're not locking them up. They catch them, they get out, not even before the paperwork is done. Like, this isn't hyperbole or joking. They let the guy out of jail that beat up his girlfriend half to death. He got out of jail. He beat his girlfriend to death. Came home and killed her. Okay? Same day he was released. Same day they booked him. He got out. He went and killed the lady. Come on now. And this is all happening right here where I live. So you're telling me they want to put up more cameras? Cameras for what? Clearly, they don't care about criminals. Clearly, if they cared, they'd be putting criminals in jail. Are they putting criminals in jail? No, because why do they care, right? So the criminals running around wild. So clearly, all of the cameras, we got about 200 cameras in our city right now. Truth be told, we got these things, they're called blue light cameras that allegedly the police use or whatever the case is, which they don't never catch nobody with half the time. I'm not being harsh on the police. I'm just saying we need to get rid of those cameras too, because it's ridiculous. Okay, people be out there dealing the drugs on the corner of the street and they ain't picking nobody up. Nobody's going to jail. Nothing's happening. And you want to tell me you want to put more cameras out there? Ridiculous. Ridiculous. Makes me want to spit. Man, I'll tell you what. Not only is it very frustrating that they push this stuff and they try to tell us it's okay, it's like they're trying to manipulate us and condescend and baby us at the same time. Oh, we know better than you because we're so much smarter and you're so much dumb and you must be lorded over. Man, please. Then you get all these people outside that are all no kings, and in the city, our mayor is a king. He does a whole bunch of things through this gun violence, gun violence executive order that he's got that's been going on for like 3 years now. Don't even get me started on that. Okay, closing off whole portions of the town, talking about, oh, you got to show your ID to get into a public neighborhood. Full of sugar. Okay, that's a violation. You understand what I'm saying? But it's okay because the same people that are like no kings supported all of the people during COVID, telling them that if you didn't get a shot, you should go to jail. They should burn you at the stake. They should make it so that you can't go to a grocery store or anything like that. If you guys lived in a state where they didn't shut down, you don't know what I'm talking about. But here it was terrible. It was terrible. You know, it was really, really bad. But this is what's going on here. And now they want more surveillance. More surveillance for who? Who is it benefiting? Not us, not we the people. These are the problems that we have. And what's going on is really, really, really an issue. Anyway, take a second, drop a comment, drop an American flag in the comments. Okay, drop a thumbs up, whatever. Be part of the conversation. If you drop a comment, I'll try to pop it up on the screen as we go. And hit the like button and the share button. You are listening to The Divide with Marcus C. Williams. We are here in your ear on WRFZ 106.3 LP, Rochester Free Radio. Now, as we have these important conversations, we've got other issues going on nationally and internationally, like with the president currently in the Strait of Hormuz with Iran. And apparently, first, we weren't making a deal with Iran over the last couple of days. Now we're making a deal with Iran. I guess they're doing a meeting today with Iran, which is crazy to me because just the other day, Trump was like, we're not going over there. We're going to do it over the telephone. They keep having us come out here and they're not serious. We're not doing it. So I guess he went back on that or whatever the case is. And now we're over there with them trying to negotiate. I guess they said Islamabad. I believe that's Pakistan. I'm not even 100% sure if it is Islamabad that they're in, but it doesn't matter. But allegedly, we're negotiating with them now. So what Trump has also said is that the military is now going to do a freedom of navigation move. where what they do is they push a destroyer or a battle cruiser or something like that. Actually, I don't know what the other ships are called. I don't think they're called battle cruisers. They're called something else. It doesn't matter. Anyway, the battleships and stuff like that. Not an actual huge battleship, because we don't even really have any of those anymore, but destroyers and some other frigates probably. Anyway, they're going to use those for freedom of navigation operations in the Strait of Hormuz. And if Iran wants some smoke, they can catch these hands, is apparently what's going on over there. So the president said, listen, we're going to help these ships get through there. And if Iran feels froggish, then leap, and we're going to blast you into nothingness. So that's what's going on over there. Apparently, we've already destroyed 6 of their 7. It's now 7 of their little speedboat things that they've got over there harassing ships and trying to take over ships and stuff like that. We've already taken out 7 of them. And there's a whole bunch of other crazy stuff going on too, because apparently there's a ship over there that's got its engine room on fire. That's a South Korean flagged vessel. I don't have much more information on that yet. They haven't released any more yet. We're not sure if it's just like an engine failure or something, or if it was the Iranians that did it. Now, the U.S. has already escorted a number of ships through there that are American flagged and some other ships. So we'll see how this works out. Okay. So this will be really, really interesting. I'm interested in seeing it. And I'm sure that with all of the battle carrier groups over there, I think we've got 3 strike groups over there now, and like thousands on thousands of Marines, even a whole Marine expeditionary unit. So they're ready for throwing some hands if we need to. Not that I think that we should have anybody on the ground over there at all. And they brought in some more A-10 Warthogs and stuff like that. Warthogs are the best. I love them. They're awesome. And they're exactly what we need for these types of operations. So they're small, light craft that can really, they've got some serious guns on them, and they really can, they can do some damage. They can do some damage. They're traditionally for anti-tank warfare and stuff like that, but any type of ground combat, they're doing real good. So this will be very interesting. Now, we also have the issue with, and I guess it's not an issue, it's a benefit really, with the UAE pulling away from OPEC. Now, if you're not familiar with OPEC, OPEC is like the oil cartel. So when you think of collusion and you think of monopolies, it's like that group has the majority of the, I guess you would say, the majority of the oil production control in the world. And Saudi Arabia is like number 1 over there in OPEC, or maybe it's Russia. Russia might be number 1. They might be number 1, number 2. But you've got the UAE, which is number 2 after that. So that's a real big deal with them pulling out of there. So now they'll be able to produce what they want, and they won't be tied to whatever OPEC is doing. OPEC said that they're going to increase capacity this month for a little bit. Not that much. It's I don't know, like a couple million barrels or something like that. It wasn't that much in the great scheme of things, you know. So especially when it's so many countries all together, and including OPEC plus, which we kidnapped Venezuela from them, thank God. And we've got Guyana. So once Guyana gets up and running, everybody's like, Venezuela, Venezuela, Venezuela. I'm telling y'all about Guyana. Y'all not listening. Y'all not trying to hear me, though. Okay? That's important. Somebody says OPEC controls the prices. Yep, they do. They do, because they control the majority of the world's supply. And it's a very important conversation. So with the UAE pulling out of there, now the UAE is like, yeah, man, we about to pump up a couple of extra million barrels ourselves each month. Now we're going to increase capacity and stuff like that. So that'll be very, very good for lowering prices on the world market. See, what a lot of people don't understand about this whole oil conversation is, regardless whether you believe in the green revolution or any of that nonsense, we are moving towards decarbonization of fuel, right? Like no more fossil fuels. Like they are really pushing towards that. I got a lot of thoughts on it. Like what's up with 0 point energy? What's up with GEET, G-E-E-T? What's up with GEET engines? What's up with all of these other things that we should be working on, but we're not, for energy and stuff like that? What's up with uh, what do you call it? The oh God, they're calling it hydrogen fuel cells, right? Like hydrogen fuel cells. What's up with that? But really, you do water hydrolyzation in your own car and get it to run on water. So I mean, like, where's the conversation in that? They don't want any of that because they know that if they did that, then it would be much simpler and less expensive, and they wouldn't have so big of a control over it, and it would upset industry and stuff like that. But back on the oil conversation. Why is the UAE this a good time for the UAE to pull out of there? Well, if they pull out now, they'll be able to produce a lot of oil. And it's better that they produce more oil now and sell more oil now than later, because later everything's going to be produced not by oil. And not everything, right? Because we still use a lot of plastic. Everything's made out of plastic and a whole bunch of chemicals and stuff like that. And not just the chemicals, but even down to RX drugs that you take. Almost every drug that you take has oil in it, like crude oil, like some sort of plasticine or something in it. And which is a whole nother conversation. You can chalk that up to Rockefeller and his nonsense. But yeah, so it's good for them to push everything out now so that they can make as much money as possible now, because later they probably won't be able to do it. The US is going to nuclear energy generation. They got a whole bunch of different things that are going on all across the country, a whole bunch of new plants opening. I think we're up to like 7 or something this year so far. And every other week I'm looking and they're opening a new nuclear plant on a military base in the US. That's awesome. I'm really happy about that because, more energy means lower energy prices. So that's something that's very important to talk about that people don't talk about very much, because a lot of the conversation gets taken over by the green energy people, and other people just aren't trying to listen to any of that nonsense. So mentioning Russia being part of the OPEC, Russia has had a number of issues over the last couple of years because Iran is also part of OPEC, which should be noted. And Iran is one of their allies. I'm using the term loosely here. I'm using air quotes if you can't see me on the radio. But they're one of their allies, allegedly. So they've been trading military tech back and forth. But Russia's been in a little bit of trouble. Because why? Well, Ukraine keeps blowing up all of their oil refineries and their oil pipelines and their natural gas pipelines. And those things aren't easy to rebuild. They cost billions of dollars. And if they're blown up by a little drone, like you spend a couple $100,000, if that, on a drone, you just created $20 billion worth of damage. Okay. Not to mention, if we were to talk about the Nord Stream pipeline, which they blew up, which isn't even a couple billion. I mean, we're talking about they lost probably daggone near $1 trillion at this point, at least, if not 500 billion or more. Okay. Probably closer to $1 trillion at this point, honestly. Between the natural gas and the oil, then you have the stuff with Slovenia, or is it Slovakia? I don't know. It's Slovenia, Slovakia, same difference. Whatever it is this month, I don't know. Which I heard that they're about to get another part of another country to become part of that. I don't even know if that's going to happen, but we'll see. They always got something going on over there. Ever since the fall of the USSR, which was the United Soviet Socialist States of Russia, but whatever. You can't call the Reds actual communists or socialists anymore, because God forbid you actually tell the truth about socialism. But getting back to the oil issue, if Russia can only produce so much oil because all of their stuff is being attacked by Ukraine, that also impacts the world oil pricing. However, there has been a ton of sanctions on Russian oil. So the West, it's been more expensive for the West, which again, it really shoots yourself in the foot or cuts off your nose to spite your face, because you need the oil. And this is a conversation that people don't like to have. So fortunately, the US produces a ton of oil. A ton of oil. I believe we just overtook, and we are now one of the largest oil producers in the world. I think we are number 2 right now. We fluctuate from number one to number two in the last couple of years. We need to crank up some oil manufacturing. Okay, that's a real big thing, but we're pumping all of this stuff. We got the Gulf of America going and flowing now. I don't know whatever happened to the pipelines that's supposed to be coming from Canada and stuff like that. So that would be helpful also. We got a couple new pipelines that are going on in the country, and we even got one new refinery authorized in Texas, which I wish we would have some here. We need at least 10 more, honestly. And I wish we had at least 2 in New York State, because these prices is crazy. Okay, these prices is crazy. And if we talk about why do we need oil from other countries, and we're one of the largest oil producers here in the US, it's that we sell sweet light oil, right? And we import heavy crude. Okay, it's 2 different types completely. So most of our stuff in our infrastructure, we take that, we refine that, and that's what we use. The sweet light crude we sell all across the world. We don't really use that because our refineries don't really mess with that stuff and stuff like that. It's just an infrastructure issue. We could use more of that if we had the infrastructure inside the United States to actually address those issues, but we don't. And that's a whole nother conversation. And hopefully, Lord willing, the current administration does more to address those issues. I'm very happy they authorized this refinery. Hopefully that'll be up soon. But after you see that somebody blew up the Valero refinery a couple months ago, not even a couple months ago, maybe about a month ago now, like there has to be very interesting conversations had about who's out here blowing up our refineries, right? Like they never talk much about that, but it's kind of crazy. Now, in other news, we've got GameStop is making a $55.5 billion takeover bid for eBay. Who would have saw that coming? People would have thought that is the other way around, but I never would have saw that coming. Because, everybody's like, oh, GameStop's struggling, GameStop's struggling. And then the whole thing that happened with GameStop around COVID time, when the people wanted to invest a lot in GameStop, and the powers that be were like, no, you can't do that. You can't get rich. You can't pump the stock up and get rich. We're the only ones that are supposed to get rich. That was wild times. That was wild times. And speaking about investing and stuff like that, Trump just introduced Trump IRA accounts, and this is really good. So even if you don't like him, please listen. This is important. And that's one of the problems with Trump right now. A lot of people hate that man so bad. It doesn't matter what good things that he does that could possibly benefit them as an individual or benefit us as a people. They still won't listen to whatever it is. So listen to this. Now, with the Trump IRAs that he's introduced, you get to keep your same IRA, but there are some companies that are going to be working with the Trump IRA program, which I believe it's if you make $35,000 or less, you're going to get $1,000 bonus when you actually put money into your IRA. And then there's like some other thing if you make less than $75,000, all of these different things that are like kind of like matching programs from the government, which is kind of awesome, right? But also it gets more people to invest in the stock market. Yes, there is some game behind the scenes on that, because the more you invest in the stock market, the more the stock market has valuation, the more money that's in the stock market, the more money that we can make. Okay, so essentially, yes, it is going to benefit people that hold companies and stuff like that. What they're trying to do is get people to invest in America. And now they're trying to get Americans to invest in America, right? But if they're matching you, you might as well take that matching money if you already have an IRA, So they're saying that this should be fully launched by January. It's going to be trumpira.com, but you can go look up the information in relation to it right now, because it's a very helpful program. And no, this is not the same thing as the baby bonds. This is not the same thing as the youth savings accounts. And no, it's also not the same thing as the health savings accounts that they're trying to do, which I don't know if the health savings accounts ever got up and going. I think they're still working on that. I haven't heard back about that yet. But they also have it with this Trump IRA thing, where now you can take out, and don't quote me on this, but it's about the number. You're going to be able to take out about $6,000 if you have an emergency without being penalized. So that's awesome. That's awesome. That's never been a thing before, and it's going to be a thing now. And I think that is just one of the most fantastic financial things that we could have had and won as a country. Because sometimes you look at you like, man, I need money now. I got an emergency, but if I take it out of my IRA, the government's going to charge me like 50% interest on it. And that's a lot of money. That's crazy. 50% of your own money. How the government going to charge you 50% of your own money? It's a whole nother conversation. We can get into that and get into taxes, get into capital gain taxes at another time. But this is an important conversation. So hit that like button, hit the share button. It doesn't cost you nothing. You are tuned into The Divide with Marcus C. Williams. We are here in your ear having the conversations that you need to hear. This is Rochester and upstate New York's #1 conservative radio show. Let's make it the whole nation. And share this. Hit the comments, drop some comments in there, and every comment helps, even if it's just an American flag. Let's go into a couple of other things. We've got the whole situation with what's going on for the fraud department that JD Vance is now in charge of. Over the weekend, and you might not have seen it because it didn't get publicized very much, they raided hundreds of places in California and in Minnesota. So this is going to be interesting to see if they get anything from it. They even raided the Quality Leering Center. Now, remember, if you guys remember the Quality Leering Center when Nick Shirley went over there and they came out like a couple days later and the guy had on like $3,000 pair of glasses and the $1,000 shirt and all of that nonsense. Yeah, that. And he was like, oh, somebody broke into our office and took all our files. Man, please, play in somebody else's face. Don't play in ours. Right. So I don't know what's going to happen with the government going in there now, because who knows how many files have been preserved or anything like that right now. So that's going to be a big deal. And I don't know if they're going to recover any of the money, but maybe the government can put into some protocols, some way to make sure that this doesn't happen again, or that the states have to make sure that they're cleaning up their reporting when they're taking federal money for it. I'm not sure. We'll see. You know, these people don't like any type of real oversight. So we'll end up seeing what's happening and we'll go forward. I mean, I'd like to see what ends up happening with all the hospices too. That's going to be an interesting thing. Or all of the adult centers that they have in New York City. That would be a big thing. You know, honestly, they could probably come to my city and they'd find a whole bunch of healthcare fraud, transportation fraud, all of that stuff. I'm talking probably in the hundreds of millions of dollars. But we can't talk about that because they don't want to talk about that here. You bring that up, nobody wants to talk about it. I really like them to do a fraud investigation into the Rochester City School District by the United States federal government. But, you know, I'm going to wish in one hand and poop in the other and see which one fills up first. We already know, you know, but it would be nice. And I'm going to keep encouraging something to be done and to be addressed for it, because what we see going on right now with all of the tens of millions of dollars missing from the school budget every year, it's kind of crazy. Right now, I believe they're saying they're $53 or $56 million short, which is crazy because they have the highest budget in the nation, second highest budget. It's like $1.4 billion after everything. And it's kind of interesting because nobody knows where the money goes. And on paper, if you, after all the calculations and you break it out, they're spending about $37,000 to $45,000 per student each year. And we've got the second lowest performing school district in the whole country. What's going on? Where's that money going? What's being done? And is anybody having those conversations? No, absolutely not. And as we get into conversations about things that end up struggling because of getting or not getting government money, we can talk about Spirit Airlines. So Spirit Airlines went bankrupt over the weekend, they didn't even go bankrupt, right? They just ceased functioning. They've been in bankruptcy since, I believe, January, but they just ceased functioning over the weekend, leaving people stranded, leaving people stuck, leaving people with upcoming tickets that they can't even get their money back for, all types of craziness. So earlier, we'll go back to Biden administration. Under the Biden administration, Spirit Airlines tried to sell to JetBlue. Biden blocked it because he's a dickhead. Okay. Now, with that happening, they've been struggling, right? And you know they're a budget airline. They try to keep the prices low, whatever, whatever. And we want low air prices, right? Because low air prices encourage freedom of mobility. You can get, you can go, you know? So that's important. But now we end up with a situation where now there are less planes in the air. Excuse me, drink water, stay hydrated. Less planes in the air, where there are less different routes that are available. And it's something that continues to cause havoc. Now, I guess other agencies like Southwest and or what is it, American and United, I guess they're going to give some people some compensation or lower their costs. I'm using air quotes, lower their costs for these people that need to rebook flights and stuff like that. Apparently, it's going on only till May 6th, I think, is the longest one, and I believe that's American Airlines. And now I want to talk about these planes because nobody's talking about the planes. I talked about limitation of freedom of mobility earlier when I was talking about the Rock Vision Zero initiative here in the city and how they're putting up all of these medians and they're putting up all of these barricades and they're doing all these roundabouts and all this stuff. But what's been going on with the airline industry since right before COVID has been intentional. And I've tried to put this out there to more and more people. Since then, I've got a ton of videos. I've talked about this previously, but this is so important. The airlines have purposefully been under attack for years. Why? Because they give people freedom of mobility and it's fast. You can just get up and go. I can go to the airport right now. I'll be in New York City in an hour. You understand what I'm saying? I can go to the airport right now. I can get a ticket. I can be in DC in 3 hours. I can go to Georgia. I could be in Georgia in 4 hours. You understand what I'm saying? Maybe I think Georgia probably be 6. We probably don't. I don't think we have a direct flight to Atlanta anymore. But anyway, you know what I'm saying? And this is what's happening. They're purposefully hobbling the airline industry. Remember during COVID when they fired all of those pilots and all of the stewardesses for not taking those shots? And then they were crying about, oh, we don't have enough pilots. There's a pilot shortage. There's a pilot shortage. Yeah, because your ridiculous selves fired all of the pilots and fired all the stewardesses during COVID because they didn't take those shots. Then they had the issue of where they couldn't have the people, and this is crazy, right? Because they fired the people that didn't take the shots. Then they found out that the shots were causing blood clots in pilots and stuff like that. And because of the altitude and pressure difference and all types of stuff, I'm a good science person, but I didn't know the full mechanics of that. But that apparently made it even worse. And I guess the pressure and stuff makes sense, right? Like if you already have extra pressure in your blood vessels and veins and stuff like that, if now the pressure is pressurized, or if you get more or less, or if it changes fast, that can cause more issues because then the thing can just go through your veins faster and go flu, flu, flu all the way around until it gets stuck. Or if it gets tighter, then now it's constricted and that thing is blocking and there's more blockage. So it just makes sense, right? They had a couple of what do you call them, pilots that had brain aneurysms in the plane because of those shots. But how quickly we forget all of that actually happened and that this is real deal because people don't want to talk about this because it's too much like right. And like I said, they fired all of these people. They couldn't get them to come back. And then what happened? They had to cut flights. They had to cut flights, the tickets went up, all of that. All of that happened. Don't forget, people, this is what happened. It actually happened. And now they have less flights and they have higher ticket fares. And now you got to pay $9 million to check your bag. You check a bag, it's $56 to check a bag. Geez, I might as well send the bag in the freaking mail. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's crazy. Like, it's real bad. So this is part of the issue that nobody really wants to talk about. That's why now they're like, oh, well, you can only have this much luggage or whatever the case. You used to be able to have 2 carry-ons and a piece of luggage, and you didn't get charged none of that. See, but then that gets us into talking about the TSA and how they shouldn't really exist. And then it gets us talking about how you used to just be able to go in the airport and go on a plane. But, that's before longer than everybody can remember, you know. So this is the problem and where we are right now. Watch what's going on with the planes. We've had a number of mergers and a number of defaults in the airline transportation industry over the last couple of years, including charter courses and stuff like that. But a lot of people don't talk about this, so people don't understand. And I'm trying to warn you ahead of time. A lot of this is part of a much bigger plan, okay, to limit your freedom of mobility as they push to 15-minute cities, which are really open air prisons. If you're not familiar with 15-minute cities, essentially what it is it's a government control zone where you can't leave or you can't get in unless you have authorization from the government to get in there. They already do this in places like China. Now they've got it in certain towns in England where you can't even leave the town. If you leave the town for more than 100 days, they're charging you. If you come into the town more than 20 times a year, they're charging you. Like, what is going on? We need to pay attention to what's going on in England, because this is the real plan that they're implementing right there in front of our face. All of these, what do you call them? I don't know. There's a word for it. It's something like blastard or billiard or something. It's the big, like, pipe cone things that come out of the ground. They're like steel rods, those type of things. I forget exactly what they're called, but it's a real serious issue. And we need to have a conversation about that, because as we see what's going on over there, if nobody's having the conversation about what happened with ULUTs. ULUTs is ultra low emission zones, where they stop people from going into parts of England, in London, okay, because they're the nicer, ritzier neighborhoods, right? They said, oh, well, it's more congested there, so they can't go there without paying a fee. So, but all the wealthy people could do whatever they want because they got the money, right? So it's just a tax on those that are in the working class and the poor, right? So it's an aerial denial option. That's what they're pushing. And these are the things that aren't being talked about. And now we see that ULUTs has come over here, ultra low emission zones. What do they call it over here in New York State? They call it congestion pricing. Congestion, ultra low emissions, same difference, right? They just figured out a way to repackage it and rename it. And this is what I'm telling you. You got to be very careful when these people call certain things ambiguous terms or something that sounds good. They're probably trying to fleece you, okay, or coerce you into something to give up your liberties and freedoms. And this is real and this is serious. And we really need to have these important conversations. So here's what I want you to do. Real quick, if you're listening and you're on the radio, please support the show. You can go to rochesterfreeradio.com, okay, or you can do it on Patreon, Rochester Free Radio. And if you're listening online on the internet, right here on either side of the screen or down below, you can help out the show. And I think we have an event coming up soon to do a fundraiser for the station, but I don't see where the notes are for the fundraiser. Anyway, I'll keep you guys posted on that. But if you want to support the show, either way, over there or down below. And drop a comment, hit the like button, hit the share button. It don't cost you nothing. You are tuned into The Divide with Marcus C. Williams here on WRFZLP 106.3 FM, Rochester Free Radio. Let's get back into it. All of this is about limitation of freedom of mobility, you guys, because it's about ushering in 15-minute cities, which are basically open air prisons. They're not going to let you out of your neighborhood. It's like when I was at the event for the Rock Vision Zero thing, the Mitch Gruber, one of our city council people, was like, "Oh yes, you need to treat the people like Pavlov's dogs." If you guys don't know about Pavlov's dogs, like, that was the most insulting thing that he could have said. And like I said, there was a lot of emotional and psychological manipulation and even, I guess you would say, coercion using language in that meeting. And when he mentioned Pavlov, people need to be trained like Pavlov's dogs, I was like, like that. What was it? What movie was that? I can't remember. I can't remember that movie with Leonardo DiCaprio where he's like, "Woof, woof," and then points at the screen. That's what I was like, because I'm like, this guy is right here telling you that he's using psychological manipulation on you. Okay. And he's trying to get you to be like, oh, yeah, it's okay. And he came out his mouth and was like, yeah, people need to be trained like Pavlov's dogs. If you don't know about Pavlov's dogs, go look it up. Essentially, I'm going to keep it short, but go look it up. Okay. It's an experiment. Essentially, they rang a bell. They gave a dog a snack. They rang a bell. They gave a dog a snack. They rang a bell. They did not give a dog a snack, but because they had been giving the dog a snack, the dog was salivating anyway. So this is what he's talking about. He's talking about programming people. I'm not with it, not even a little bit. Okay. That's bad. That's bad juju. You can see what he's up to. Okay. And then on top of that, it's really like with this whole project where they're pushing the 15-minute cities. It's like the other scientific experiment, which was Universe, I want to say it was Universe 37 or something like that. I'm going to tell you right now. I'm pretty sure that's what it was. It's a Universe 25, okay? So Universe 25 is an experiment that was done by John B. Calhoun from 1968 to 1973. And in that experiment, what happened is he made this rat utopia, right? So he made this area where the rats had all the food that they wanted. They didn't have to go after any food or do anything or whatever. All the water that they wanted, everything was provided for them, right? So what happened with Universe 25? Well, in that area, in that program, what happened is the mices, the rats, they bred and they were happy and they didn't have nothing to do. So they was banging and they was having babies and they was banging and they was having babies and they had all the food. And then come a couple of generations in, they started doing all types of crazy stuff. Like some of the rats wouldn't even move or do anything at all anymore. And some of the rats resorted to cannibalism. Now, why would you resort to cannibalism if you've got all the food and water that you need? That's kind of a crazy thing to do. So, and at the end of the experiment, there were like no rats left because they all died off. Now, explain how all the rats died off, even though they were in one little area and had all the food and all the water that they wanted. Well, this is exactly what they're doing with these 15-minute cities. Okay, it's an open air prison. There are two factors to this. It's more than just the giving them everything that they want. It's also the restricting their freedom of movement and preventing them from being able to get out, right? People need out, like what do they say? Go touch grass. People need to touch grass. People need out of their area, out of their neighborhood, out of their city. People, what do they say? They yearn for the mines, like people yearn for their freedom, like that's the whole crazy thing. And that's a whole Socrates thing in the cave. And that's a whole nother, what is that called? Allegory? That's a whole nother allegory for another time. But essentially what happens is when they do this, you won't be able to do anything but what's already pre-programmed by the government for you to do. This is also why they're pushing all of this digital currency. This is why they're pushing these digital IDs. In New York State, we already have digital IDs. In California, they already have digital IDs. They're being pitched to us as if, oh, well, they're good, so you should get one because they're convenient. Again, this is giving up your safety and security your safety and not safety, but giving up your liberties and freedoms for a false sense of temporary security. Okay, in this case, it's temporary convenience. It's all a trap. It's all a lie. And all of these things work together. When you start stacking the pieces together, you start really seeing the picture. Okay. It's like a puzzle. Okay. We got the airlines. They're shutting down the airlines. They're doing everything to hobble the airlines. And people are like, oh, well, it's not happening. It is happening. As slow as it goes, but over years and years and years, you start to see what's really happening. And that's what's happening with the cars now. Now they're like, oh, well, your car won't start up unless it biometrically scans your face and all of this. Okay, in New York State, we have it where they're trying to put breathalyzers in every car. I don't drink. Why I need a breathalyzer in my car? You understand what I'm saying? And I just saw that they're pushing a law today where they put more breathalyzers in people's cars that are charged with drunk driving or whatever the case is. That's also nonsense because that's their excuse to get us a step closer to breathalyzers in all cars, because it's not about the breathalyzer. It's about the government being able to shut down your vehicle whenever they deem necessary or prevent it from being started. Okay? The government is not your friend. The government is not your friend. It does not have your best interests at heart. You got to wake up. So you stack that together with them limiting airlines, with them putting up all of these cameras and all of this surveillance, with them putting up all of these so-called license plate readers, with them putting up all of these ways to track you and your purchases. Okay, the FedNow app, go look that up. FedNow app. Essentially, basically what it is, when you go to make a payment with any type of a card or whatever, it goes to the Federal Reserve first, and then it goes to whoever you're trying to give the money to. It's wild. And this is where we are right now. But you stack that, plus all of the cars that won't go unless the government says it's okay, plus destroying the airline industry, plus all of the surveillance cameras, plus the digital currency. Okay, come on, you guys. I hope that the picture is starting to get clearer for you. It's all the information is out there. It's easily accessible. None of this is what I'm talking about is hidden. It's all a conspiracy, of course, because it's more than three people getting together and making a plan. So that's the definition of a conspiracy. And you have to ask yourself, why is a conspiracy a criminal charge? Make it make sense, right? Like if conspiracies aren't real, why is it a criminal charge? It's a criminal conspiracy is illegal on the federal level, and it's illegal on the state level. So why is it that these type of things, somebody needs to be charged for these things? These are serious issues that they're forcing on our society, but they'll never get charged because it's hard for other people to say, oh, well, yeah, these things are all connected towards a greater issue that they're trying to push, when clearly they are. It's all about government control. At the end of the day, the government wants one thing, and that's more control over you as an individual. It doesn't matter who's in office. It doesn't matter if it's Trump. It doesn't matter if it's Kamala. It doesn't matter if it's Bernie. I mean, I guess it matters if it's Bernie because he's an open socialist, and socialists want nothing more but government control. But you understand what I'm saying. Like the government in and of itself is a massive behemoth, and whoever is at the head of it, okay, can only really do so much. It's the rest of the body that's really controlling everything else. Hit that like button, hit the share button. It don't cost you nothing. Make sure that you are subscribed and you are following, you are tuned in to The Divide with Marcus C. Williams. We are here in your ear, having the conversations you need to hear. We are on WRFZ 106.3 LP FM, Rochester Free Radio. Now let's get right back into it. And hit that like button for sure, for sure. Also, you can drop a comment below. We'll pop the comment up on the screen. You want to be part of the conversation, even if it's just an American flag or a hi, I see you there, and anything like that, or a hi, I like the show. We appreciate all of that. Now, as we have more of these conversations about the path that we're going down, we also have to look at the issues with government surveillance. The continued expansion of government surveillance is happening, and it's happening at a rapid pace. You look at people like the Palantir people incorporating all of their software and spyware into the government agencies and stuff like that, like it's okay. And we're being told, oh, well, it's going to stop criminals and it's going to do that. I'm more concerned about the surveillance implications, and I'm more concerned about the PayPal mafia because they're all up and through all of this. Speaking of the PayPal mafia and them controlling things, look at Peter Thiel, okay? Oracle, okay? Check him out. Okay, now Peter Thiel is backing all of these different weird security exchange type things with tokens, okay? Tokenization, digital currency, and currency swaps and all of this and all of that. You got to pay attention. And the government just authorized basically currency swaps to be okay with crypto now. And you can have different special banking platforms and stuff with it. It's a lot. Like it would take me a whole hour even just to get into that even a little bit. But go look up what Peter Thiel and his companies have going on with that. So he's got one company, sorry, the name is slipping my mind, but he's got one company that he's invested in that is doing a lot of that right now. And they just got like some new authorization from the SEC, Security Exchange Commission. It's wild what's going on. But this is the push for the digitalization and tokenization of everything. And I try to tell people, look into what's happening with the tokenization of all the assets. If all of the assets are tokenized, that means the government can control and see everything from point A to point Z. You understand what I'm saying? All the way through. Okay. And that is very dangerous because there's no autonomy. There's no anonymization, because whatever that other word is, apparently my brain doesn't want to pronounce it right. Anonymity. Yeah, that's how you pronounce it. So this is serious, right? And we need to have these real conversations, because who is talking about this? Who's talking about the tokenization? Nobody. Nobody. Like two people. you know, like these are the conversations. And I don't know. I'm trying to figure out how to come up off of this. Okay. You guys, let me be real and be honest with you right now. Pay close attention to what this administration is doing, because when Trump gets on the TV and he says that we are the most transparent administration ever, honestly, he's not lying. Okay, he's not lying. And I know somebody's gonna be like, oh, he is a liar. That's not true, whatever. It's true. And every time before he makes some sort of a big move that's going to make a lot of money or make the stocks change or something like that, he always telegraphs that move where people that have money can invest in it or whatever. You can invest in that stuff too. Now, I don't like a lot of what's going on here. Okay. Doesn't mean that you shouldn't be able to make the come up off of it, because a lot of it's coming anyway and nobody's going to stop it. But the problem is that it's not going to be stopped because not enough people are going to fight back against it. And if more of us stand up and push back against what's happening and recognize how serious an issue a lot of this stuff is, especially the tokenization as far as control goes, then we can really make a difference. But, that means that people would actually have to be paying attention to what's going on. Somebody says, tokenization is usually a buzzword prior to a poop coin or a meme coin. It's not. It's not. It's definitely not. And I'm putting your comment up there, even though you said that and it's wrong, but it's not, because this stuff is real. They are trying to tokenize all of the assets. If you have an asset, they are trying to tokenize it. All currency is about to be tokenized, all tangible assets. If you own a house, it's going to be tokenized. If you own a car, it's going to be tokenized. This is why they are pushing the renter economy, the subscription economy. You guys, people have to wake up. So it's more than just a buzzword. It's what's actually happening. It's what's actually going on. He says it wasn't to be taken seriously. Okay. But it's serious. This is serious, though. It really is. And we need to actually understand how tokenization works, because I've been warning people since the whole push for blockchain and Bitcoin came out and stuff like that. And what does he say? Trump's involvement with crypto has been wild, though. Liberty Financial, for example. Yes, Trump's. I'm trying to tell you, like his stuff with the crypto stuff, like he's telegraphing what's going on. He gets on the TV. I watch him to figure out what's going to happen with some stocks that's going to pop either now or in the next couple of years, because the man gets on the TV and he tells you all the business. He tells you all the business. It's like, this is happening. This is where we're going. This is what we're about to do. So you can either come along or you can get left to the wayside. And I'm like, wow, that's raw. But I bet you people don't even see or hear exactly what he's saying. And they don't. They don't. Because people look at him as a second thought. And you got to remember, again, the government is bigger than just him. So a lot of this stuff that's getting out there is going to survive him, whether you care about him or not. And by the time it hits, you won't know anything. Ross, it says he freed Ross Erblich, I forget how to say his name, and he called him a crypto god. That's the guy that had the Silk Road, right? Ross, I believe that's the guy that had Silk Road, this online site where they were selling all these drugs and all types of stuff. But essentially, it was an open black market, okay? And I mean, it was an open black market, right? So all types of wild stuff was going on over there. But yeah, so he did free him. And he freed a couple of other people too, whose names are escaping me, involved with crypto right now. And he's been pardoning a ton of different people that you really need to pay attention to some of these pardons, because they're like, these people are up to things that are intelligent and that are shaping the future of not just where we are now, but of our whole nation. And people need to understand that that's what's happening. Somebody said England is coming out with the 15-minute cities. Yep, you're right, Lorraine. I just talked about that a little while earlier. Thank you. Please hit the share button and share this out. So yeah, so this is what's coming. Like the government right now is telegraphing everything is doing. Now, I want to talk about this before we take off. Elon Musk and SpaceX just landed a Raptor, not a Raptor, but one of the heavy rockets on one of their platforms in the middle of the ocean. So that's wild. Like, that's wild. So that hasn't happened before. So these aren't the little Raptor rockets. These are the ones for the giant spaceship, okay, that they're doing. And that's wild. So this is going to change the future of not just transportation and goods transportation, but the future of human transportation and intermediary commerce. Like, this is going to be a huge thing. If they are able to figure out how to get the heavy rockets to land and be able to be reused over and over again, they just need a couple more sites to launch pad from and make a couple more rockets. Oh, and it's about to get real wild in the next couple of years. It's going to be like the future of cowboy in industry out there in the next couple of years as things go, especially if they push this nuclear energy stuff like what's going, and that's very serious. Somebody said, why can't I hear you on YouTube? I'm not sure if you're watching on YouTube though, right, brother? I see you on YouTube commenting. You must be able to hear. So I'm not sure, Lorraine. It might just be your stuff. But I'll post it again later. So yeah, he freed Ross, and the libertarians did want him to do that. And he kept his promises. Trump has kept a lot of promises, and people don't like to talk about that. But on the radio, stay tuned if you're online. If you're on the radio, you listen to us. Thank you for tuning into The Divide. With Marcus C. Williams, you guys have a blessed one. And remember, stand up, speak up, and don't shut up. Catch you guys later. Be blessed and be well. So yeah, so we've got quite a bit of stuff going on, you guys, and we have to pay attention to what's happening in the government, because this administration really is transparent, whether people like to talk about it or not. They're telling you what's going on. So I mean, it's one of the most honest administrations that we've ever had, at least in my lifetime. I've only known a couple presidents, but it's one of the most honest administrations we've had. Now, you can be honest and still be full of poop. Don't get it twisted. But they've been very honest. And I don't like everything that they do, but they've been quite upfront with a lot of things. And if we don't pay attention to what we need to as the people of this nation, as the citizens, as we the people, we're not doing what we're supposed to be doing. Because again, I don't care who is the president or who is in power. It is the behemoth of government which will roll over on all of us. It does not matter whether it's a Democrat or a Republican or a Libertarian or none of that in there. Look at what happened when Trump tried to shrink the government, right? The Democrats fought him on that, right? Why? To keep the government big and fat and powerful. It wasn't because they cared about the people and their jobs. No, it's to keep a power base. That's all that it's about. The monster will defend itself wholeheartedly from anybody that gets in there on that level and really tries to make that level of serious change. That's what we have to think about. That's what we have to talk about. And it's not just on the federal level. Don't get it twisted. It's on the local level. But on the local level is where you can make the difference. That's why you have to get involved. That's why I always encourage everybody to get involved locally, whether it's just going to a school board meeting or a city council meeting or a fire district or one of the planning board meetings, just so you can start to understand and see what's going on and how things are going, so you can tell other people, because the issue is people don't see what the government is doing. They don't know. I guarantee you earlier when I talked about the Rock Vision Zero, that not only do a lot of people not know about the automated traffic enforcement, which is government surveillance en masse, but they also don't know about what they're trying to do with the alleys. Like I said, who knows that that's happening? Nobody knows that that's happening. They don't want you to know that it's happening. Okay? And little by little, they're growing their power and they're taking away yours. They're taking away your liberties. They're taking away your freedoms. They're taking away your constitutional rights. in the Bill of Rights, and people don't see it. That's why we have to share this information. That's why we have to have these important conversations. And that's why I'm so happy that I get to have this time to speak with you guys. If you guys want to support the show, please donate. You can go online on either side over there. We've got Cash App, $MW Real, the number one, or you can do Venmo or PayPal. Do whatever you can, $5, $10, $25, $100, whatever you got, whatever you want to do to support the show, because airtime ain't free. And help us out so that we can get out to more people. We'd like to do a whole nother show at another time and even maybe go to a bigger level of station so more people can hear the message. So let's see what we can do. Help us out so we can get the message out. I'll catch you guys later. Remember, stand up, speak up, and don't shut up. Take action. Be blessed and be well.